Tomorrow, the season kicks off for Northwestern. So let's talk about the game.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So welcome in to Locked On Northwestern, and thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We are available and free wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it, you can find the podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so I'm your host, Carter Bird, and tomorrow, Northwestern kicks its season off in Dublin against Nebraska. So let's talk about the game. Well, right off the bat, what an opportunity for this Northwestern team. The first time in 2 years that they are back in their football building for the offseason, coming off a not great 2021 season, 3-9, and they get the marquee game in week 0. There's no other game that has eyeballs on it than this Northwestern game, and I think that's really the story here. It's a chance before anybody else to really make a statement, because people are actually kind of expecting a decent amount from this Nebraska team, whether they should or shouldn't. I think that this Nebraska team definitely got better in the offseason. I think they leveraged the transfer portal well, kind of like you saw Michigan State do last year when they went from 3-9 to a 10-win team. 15 transfers coming into this Nebraska team, and 10 of them right now are slated to start this game tomorrow. So when you look at this game, everybody's got their eyes on – everybody's talking about Nebraska. Let's be real here. Everybody, one of the favorite talking points right now in the Big Ten is Scott Frost. He's coming into this game a little bit on the hot seat. There hasn't quite lived up to expectations to this point at Nebraska. So with that in mind, everybody is talking about this Nebraska team, how they can get off to a start this year. I think the schedule for them is very manageable to start. I think that the first 7-8 games, they should have a chance in basically every game. They do play Oklahoma in a rematch of the game of the century way back when. And it's probably the most gettable that Oklahoma has ever been, the most beatable that they've been, the most vulnerable that they've been. So people are circling this Nebraska team as a team that could finally break out. And everybody's talking about all the new transfers, Casey Thompson, Trey Palmer, new offensive coordinator Mark Whipple. You have Scott Frost in the media talking about how the offensive linemen are puking 15 to 20 times per practice because they're just working so hard. And so all of the conversation is about Nebraska. And I think that's a little foolish, because this Northwestern team, yes, is coming off a not great season. And last year, Nebraska blew them out. But I don't think you can overstate the level of focus that you're hearing about from this Northwestern program. And as Fitz said on Monday, they have gotten back into their football building. They're in the weight room. And he said that the team this spring looked completely different physically from the team in the fall. And that's only continued through the summer. He's raved about summer practices. And something you keep hearing about with this Northwestern team is the leadership and how the level of discipline and the level of leadership across the board, up and down the roster, has improved. And I think that sticks out to me. The way that they are talking going into this game, it's a very business-like approach. I mean, they honestly are talking about this game and this trip because the game is in Dublin. They did get on a plane on Tuesday afternoon, night, and flew through the night and got there Wednesday morning. And they've been over there so far. So it's a different environment. Everything is a little different about this trip. It's not your typical opener. Should be in a normal year. Nebraska at Northwestern should be one of Northwestern's home Big Ten games. But I just like the way this Northwestern team has handled it. You have the team captains talking about they aren't even really thinking about the sights and sounds of Dublin, and I'm sure they are looking forward to having the opportunity to see and experience those things, and that's all going to be a great experience for this Northwestern team. But first and foremost, they are here to win a football game, and that is the key. And I like the mentality. I like the focus, and I really believe that this Northwestern team has what it takes to be a little different. They return a lot of guys, and so I think that the media is talking so much about Nebraska, and nobody's saying a peep about Northwestern. I mean, heck, if you go look on the Chicago Trib and Sun-Times, really anywhere, nobody this fall camp has really been writing stuff about Northwestern. Nobody's been talking about them. I mean, they're likely getting picked in the media by most everybody to be the favorites to repeat as last in the Big Ten West. And I think that's people overlooking an experienced, a determined Northwestern team. You hear them talk about how they've all changed their diet this offseason. You hear them talk about all the work they've done in the weight room. And you hear them talking about getting their edge back. And I think that's the story. And Northwestern has an excellent chance to prove it this weekend. So those are my opening thoughts as we get into this game. Coming up here in a second, we're going to look at all the betting lines and everything with it. And we are going to just take a look at how we think this game could shake out. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so again, want to thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. The ultimate college football preview is here. A 7-episode preview with college experts, local team experts, and Odyssey college football insiders. It's everything you need to be ready for the college football season in one spot. Search for Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. All right, so we've talked about this game so far. We have talked about the opportunity that Northwestern has, how everybody is overlooking them. I mean, coming off a 3-9 year, I mean, you even had Fitz at Big Ten Media Day joking about it. I mean, he said they didn't have enough questions for him. And so he was just like, yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you only win 3 games last year. Well, now here we are, week 0. You are the only Power 5 versus Power 5 game on the docket. And I think they have a great opportunity here. And I am fascinated to see how it plays out. I mean, when you look at the lines, yesterday, if we were talking about this game just yesterday, the line was Northwestern plus 13.5, Nebraska favored by 13.5 points. So 2 scores. Today, the line is moving in Northwestern's favor. It got to as low as 10.5 today, earlier. Now it's at 11. And, they're Northwestern's still pretty hefty underdogs on the money line at plus 360. And the over-under has actually dropped, I think, a full point from 52.5 to 51.5. But I think when you look at this game, you have Northwestern returning a lot of experience on the offensive line, returning a really strong running backs room. I think Ryan Helinski is, in my mind, likely going to be the starter in this game. I think you look for him to be a lot more comfortable in the first time in his career where he's had the same offense coordinator from one year to the next year. And I think with that offensive line returning so much experience, so many starters returning, and then you have guys like Vincent Picazzi who can play up and down that offensive line and fill in wherever need be. And then Malik Washington, Bryce Kurtz leading that receiving core, Marshall Lang in the tight ends room with Charlie Mangieri. Those two I expect to be red zone threats. All you need is a piece or two to emerge in that receivers room. And I think this offense can sneak up on people, can especially sneak up on this Nebraska team that I think is gettable on the defensive line. I think Peter Skoronski and Wiedeker can control O'Shawn Mathis, can keep him from potentially wrecking the game coming off the edge. And then there's not a lot of production elsewhere on that defensive line. I think Northwestern will be able to get some push, be able to run the football. There are big bodies on that offensive line for sure, very big bodies. But I think there's a difference between just being big and then being big and being able to back it up with the production. And we just don't know that yet with this Nebraska team. I'm curious with such an inexperienced defensive line for Nebraska, how does that affect these linebackers? You return a couple of stud linebackers up the middle who have made a lot of plays for this Nebraska team. But then on the back end, yet again, 3 starters leaving the program after last year. A lot of new faces. How does this Nebraska defense stack up with this Northwestern offense? I think Northwestern will be able to string some drives together. They may not score a ton of points, but I mean, let's be honest, that's not been the MO in a little bit of time now for Northwestern. I mean, I expect them to lean on the run game, play a little bit of ball control offense, and continue to pound away with that really deep offensive, or that deep offensive line and that deep running backs room, that both of which have plenty of experience. On the other side of the ball, we don't really know what to expect with this Nebraska offense. We know that Scott Frost is an offensive guy. We know that Mark Whipple coming over really liked to throw the ball a lot last year at Pittsburgh. And Narduzzi, the Pittsburgh head coach, seemed to have issues with that, which is puzzling because some of the best offensive years that his teams have had. But with this offense, a lot of new transfers in the receiving room. Trey Palmer, somebody to watch out for, somebody who can break the game, can really flip the whole thing on its head. You got a running backs room that I think is going to be really interesting. You have probably, when they went into fall camp, the guys who are going to be the first 2 out there, probably not the guys you expected. Ironically enough, I think both of them went to the same high school in Georgia, which is interesting how they both ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Interesting pass. One went JUCO. The others obviously just went there. You have transfers in the receiving room. You got a really big, fast, physical tight end. That he could be a matchup problem. But again, I really like this Northwestern DBs group. I think is going to be the leader of this defense as far as position groups go. You return 3 starters, who have plenty of experience in their career. I mean, you have, depending on the year, they've been named Big Ten honorable mention, preseason All Big Ten, or they've made the Pro Football Focus preseason All Big Ten team. I expect them all to continue to take a step forward. You have some pieces to fill that second safety spot, and then you have a Duke transfer backing up the corners, and I think that experience allows you to kind of maybe get a little versatile with these DBs and kind of you can get creative with them a little bit. At linebacker, I mean, you got Bryce Gallagher up the middle, who's the unquestioned leader of that linebackers group, team captain. I mean, I think that he's going to be the guy that everybody looks to get everybody lined up and everything. And he seemed to really praise that linebackers room when he met with the media this week. He was really excited about the fall camp that they've had and the way that they've looked and how bought in, disciplined, and how they are really trusting their coaching. And then the defensive line, this is the group that I was worried about coming into this week. I mean, you obviously have Adetomiwa Adebawore at defensive end in that kind of edge role coming back for his senior year. He was your team leader in sacks, tackles for loss. You really need him to almost double those numbers this season. But you brought in some transfers up the middle in that D-line. And I think that you got guys like Ryan Johnson that up the middle from Stanford. And Fitz really kind of praised that group. Said they've come along very well this fall camp. And I think that'll be something to keep an eye on because this Nebraska offensive line is really, really big. And they held their own last year against Northwestern, really pushed the Northwestern front around. Honestly, I expect Northwestern's front to be better. And that's mostly because of the product that last year they just were pretty bad. It'd be hard to take a step backwards. So I expect them to take a step forward. And then I'll be interested to see how they handle this Nebraska offensive line group. And then, of course, you have Casey Thompson, the Texas transfer at quarterback for Nebraska. I just think there's so much change going on in this Nebraska offensive side of the ball that new quarterback, new transfer receivers, kind of shake up on the offensive line a little bit, new offensive coordinator. I have a hard time seeing them score a lot of points. I think that week 0 will bring about a little bit of struggles that maybe would be a little more ironed out if they played on week 1. I'm kind of thinking back to a few years ago when Florida and Miami played each other in a week 0 game, and it was one of the grossest games of offense I've ever seen. Neither offense could get anything going, really. And honestly, the tackles for Miami were basically turnstiles for the defensive ends of Florida. They were just getting pressure all night, and neither offense really got off the ground. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards with this game. I really kind of like the under 51 and a half in this game. I don't expect a lot of points to be scored. And then I still think, even at 11, I think that's too many points. I really like this Northwestern's team ability, in my mind, going in, that they can keep it close and be there with a chance to win and a chance to really make a statement. To make a statement to the rest of the Big Ten, because everybody's going to be watching this Nebraska team trying to figure out if they're for real or not. And if this Northwestern team can get started right off the bat with a big win in Dublin in week 0, I think they can kind of send a message that, hey, we aren't that 3-9 team you saw last year. We're different. So if you're asking me, I'm taking Northwestern at plus 11, and I'm taking the under. And I think Northwestern has a very good chance to keep it within one score late in the fourth quarter, and then they might be able to sneak out a win. And I just think that too many people are sleeping on this Northwestern team. and too many people are buying into the Nebraska team. I mean, I was in that boat as recently as 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. I mean, I was looking at Nebraska's schedule, and I was like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. They start 7-1, which would be the best season they've had in years. But as we've gotten closer, there's too much turnover for me in that Nebraska side of the offense. And there's not enough returning production on the Nebraska defense for me. And then Northwestern's experience, I kind of like where it matches up with Nebraska. And I just think that this Northwestern team very easily can sneak up and pull an upset here. I mean, we've seen Nebraska be sleepy in these week 0 games. We saw it against Illinois just a year ago. I mean, they can show up and not really show out. Granted, it looks like they have a ton of fans there. It looked like a daggum concert at their pep rally, but I really like this Northwestern team's chances to I guess hang in there and make this game close. The uglier they can make this game, I think, the better their chances are of getting a win. And so that's going to be something that I am looking for in this game. I'm can you muck it up and make it an ugly game? Because I'm not sure Nebraska knows how to win those games. And 2 years ago, Northwestern won the Big Ten West. They've been to, I guess, in this instance, if winning the Big Ten West is the mountaintop, it's not winning a national championship or winning the Big Ten, but they've been higher up the mountain than Nebraska's ever been, and they've been just as low. And I think that this Northwestern team is better prepared to deal with adversity. So now that we've talked about the game a little bit, the opportunity in front of Northwestern, we looked at the lines, kind of talked out why I really like Northwestern in this game, why I think they have a very good chance to hang in there. Let's just take a look for fun around the rest of week 0. All right, so as we look around this week 0 game, we've talked about the Northwestern Nebraska game enough, I think. Here on Bet Online, we're going to take a look at some of the other matchups. I think the ones that jump out a little bit, especially for Northwestern, this Illinois-Wyoming game. Illinois is favored by 14 points. The over-under is a really low 43. Really low. And part of me thinks that just because of the persona of Brett Bielema, a guy who I've seen in the Big Ten and the SEC and all over the place, I think Illinois is just going to get really big and try to play some smash-mouth football with Wyoming. And this isn't Josh Allen Wyoming out there, I don't think. So I kind of like Illinois to maybe cover that 14. And I think the over-under at 43, I mean, it's so low. I don't know. I think I might take the over there, but that also feels like it could be kind of foolish for me. Other games that stick out to me, at least, UConn and Utah State. Utah State, I believe, won the Mountain West last year, but their head coach left for Colorado State. UConn, the Jim Mora Jr. Era, and, been kind of the laughing stock of college football here in recent years. And they're 26-point dogs against Utah State that's kind of going through some flux, that lost a lot, that, depending on who you talk to, you might say kind of lucked their way to that Mountain West championship. Well, give me UConn plus 26, and I'm gonna take the under 59.5 just because. I mean, it's UConn. I don't expect UConn to score a lot of points. All right, what other games stick out as we keep scrolling down the Bet Online lines for week 0? The Charlotte Florida Atlantic game sticks out. Charlotte's a team that can be kind of plucky, and FAU has obviously been through some ups and some downs. I kind of like Charlotte is a 7-point underdog in this game. I kind of like Charlotte. I think they sneak up on teams every now and then. I mean, you saw it last year, I believe, with Duke. I think Charlotte may have jumped up and gotten them. Give me Charlotte. We're going to take the under just because I don't believe in Willie Taggart's offense under 59. I'm going to bring up the North Carolina Florida A&M game because of the storylines around it today. So there was a point today where there were rumors that Florida A&M was not traveling to Chapel Hill to even play the game. Now it's been confirmed that they did travel for this game, but they have 20 players out in a combination of academic reasons and I believe transfer eligibility issues. And as a result, they're only taking 7 offensive linemen up to Chapel Hill, and they're 42.5-point underdogs. I mean, you've got a new quarterback and at UNC. You got, I believe it's Drake May. I have a hard time seeing Florida A&M with 7 offensive linemen able to keep within 42.5. I think you hammer the over and you hammer UNC minus 42.5, which is a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, Florida A&M's coach told somebody today, I forget who the reporter was, I saw it on Twitter. He said that he doesn't think they can safely play the game with 7 offensive linemen, but yet they made the trip and they're playing tomorrow. That's going to be one that sticks out to me as an interesting one. I'm just not sure exactly what that game looks like. And then finally, one game that everybody's talking about for some reason, and it's late, and it's going to be gross. One of the worst, probably, 2 or 3 Power 5 teams in the country versus probably a team that has a chance to be about as bad as anybody in the G5 just because of what that program has been through. Vanderbilt at Hawaii. Vanderbilt is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. I mean, probably the most they'll be favored all season. Over-under is 54.5. So, in case you didn't know, Hawaii, their football stadium is condemned. So, they're having to play in a 9,000-person stadium. It's going to feel like a Nashville high school game for a lot of these Vanderbilt players. It's an interesting trip to take. I believe Chris Gordy on my radio show this week told us that the Vanderbilt, Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC told us that the Vanderbilt media group had asked for some sort of Hawaii depth chart, and Hawaii just did not have one. Their new coach is Timmy Chang. They got through a struggle of a Todd Graham era. Todd Graham essentially told the whole team that he was using Hawaii as a launching pad job for another Power 5 job to get back there. Obviously, he was at Arizona State before, or to the NFL, which is an interesting point of view and interesting to tell your team that. But yeah, things got so bad there that you even saw Todd Graham's son transfer out of the program. So that'll be a game that you'll see a lot of people watching late at night. That's what they kind of that Hawaii Pac-12 after dark window. And I think you'll a lot of people will figure out a way to create a vested interest, to manufacture it, to figure out a way to buy in. And so that's something that I'll keep an eye on because I think that game's just weird and it's going to be awkward and I don't even know where it's going to be on television. But yeah. But Saturday, make sure, 11:30 Central Time. You got Northwestern, Nebraska in Dublin, I believe, is on Fox. So that'll be the game that we talk about. Definitely be talking about it on Monday. That'll be something to look forward to next week. I'm your host, Carter Bird, for Locked On Northwestern. You can follow me on Twitter at CarterBird13 and on Instagram at CarterBird13 as well. And thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen for anything and everything Northwestern. And make sure you know what your team is up against across the Big Ten with Locked On Big Ten. Every day, host Nate Dickinson and local experts of Locked On take you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked On Big Ten your second listen. Locked On Big Ten, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So that's going to do it for today, and we'll see y'all on Monday as we talk about what happens tomorrow.